So Politico's out with an article. The title is Rule of Law is Endangered, Chief Justice Says. Speaking at Georgetown Law, Chief Justice John Roberts denounced ad hominem criticism of the justices. Here's my question for you. Are they waking up to Trump's fascist threat? Are they waking up to that? That's the question. All right, let's dive into it, and I'll have a lot to say about it. Chief Justice John Roberts described the rule of law as endangered and warned against trashing the justices. But speaking in Washington Monday, he didn't point fingers directly at President Donald Trump or his allies for publicly excoriating judges who've ruled against aspects of Trump's agenda. The notion that rule of law governs is the basic proposition, Roberts said during an appearance at Georgetown Law. Certainly as a matter of theory, but also as a matter of practice, we need to stop and reflect every now and then how rare that is, certainly rare throughout history and rare in the world today. As many legal experts express grave concern about Trump's attacks on law firms, and with several judges advancing inquiries into whether the administration is refusing to comply with court orders, Roberts took a longer-term view Monday. He blamed schools for shortchanging civics education and leaving students with little understanding of the structure of U.S. government or the role of the courts. What? No. We're not doing this, John Roberts. We are not doing this. So you're talking about threats to the rule of law. You're talking about that now. And your concern is, bro, the schools are like not teaching civics and it's the students. These students don't understand what rule of law is about, bro. The President of the United States just violated a 9-0 court order where you said they need to facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. 9-0. Your dumbass and Clarence Thomas both said, yeah, this is obviously illegal. You got to try to get him back. This is crazy. You admitted it was a mistake you sent him there. He's got no criminal record. What are you talking about? He blew that off, and you're finger wagging at students for not, what? Revering the court as highly as you'd like them to? He said, quote, "That's really bad too." The Chief Justice told graduating students at the law school, "We're developing a situation where a whole group of young people is growing up having no real sense about how our system of justice works." You have got to be fucking kidding me. So the Republicans and Trump and MAGA get to willy-nilly violate whatever fucking court order they want. Remember when Boasberg said, you got to turn the plane around, this is not legal. And they said, sorry, it's over international waters. Tee-hee-hee, your ruling doesn't apply. They're not complying with basic instructions from the court. How many Doge things have been slapped down and they just go, LOL, we're going to keep cutting stuff. It's happening all the time. And you're talking more about students than you are about Trump. By the way, you know why he's doing that, right? Because it was Chief Justice John Roberts who gave Trump legal immunity. What he said is, as long as the president is doing what he thinks is an official act, that can't be illegal. Well, you fucking idiot. Trump is a bad faith actor. He's not good faith. He's going to say, literally anything I do is an official act, so you can't question it. You open the door for him to do that. You open the door for him to say, 9-0 Supreme Court ruling? Well, I disagree. I disagree because I was acting in good faith and it was an official act for me to protect this country from the invasion of immigrants. And so who are you? Shut the fuck up. Go sit in the corner. Wear the dunce hat. Oh, this guy. I've told you guys this a million times, but I really wish I was in the room. I was a fly on the wall in the whatever Supreme Court meetings are happening these days, because I guarantee you, Elena Kagan and Sonia Sotomayor and a bunch of the people in there, they are fucking furious with John Roberts because he opened the door for the absolute destruction of rule of law in this country. And now here he is going, the rule of law is endangered, but the problem are these kids, bro. Look at these kids, bro. No, the problem, it's you. You're the problem. But more importantly, it is Donald Trump. It is Donald Trump. I've never seen so many court orders blown off nonchalantly than what we're witnessing right now. In March, Roberts responded quickly when Trump called U.S. District Judge James Boasberg crooked and urged he be impeached for his rulings related to the administration's deportation of hundreds of men to a notorious prison in El Salvador. Impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision, Roberts, an appointee of George W. Bush, said at the time. I remember this. You guys remember this? Basically, they were like, this judge should be impeached because he called out our bullshit and slapped down something we did. And this was it was a tepid, like, that's not the right procedure. No, that's not how we deal with this. In a speech earlier this month, Roberts' most junior colleague, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, a Biden appointee, condemned threats and harassment that she said amounted to attacks on our democracy that ultimately risk undermining our Constitution and the rule of law. Roberts' public tone since Jackson's remarks has been notably less dire. At a judicial event in Buffalo last week, he repeated his earlier written statement opposing impeachment of judges over decisions, but passed up the opportunity to elaborate. Roberts assured the students Monday that the tense public atmosphere surrounding the judiciary and the fact that the justices disagree a lot hasn't led to the kind of toxic personal strife that has permeated the Supreme Court at various times in history. Quote, "We have to work together on these things that are difficult. You find a way to get along. It's a long job. If you're sort of really at each other's throats with bad feelings and stuff like that, it's not a good way to function. We do have to address some very, very difficult things. We're the only people who are doing it." For the second time in a week, Roberts, 70 years old, signaled that he has no plans to step down, blah, 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 blah. There aren't many people who would have the kind of perspective, including myself. I wouldn't claim to have that kind of view, but sort of a very good balanced way of looking at all of it, Chief Justice said. I don't know, guys. He doesn't look there to me yet. So you're doing a public event, and I think this is his first public event post-Trump blowing off the 9-0 Supreme Court ruling. And he's talking about how rule of law is endangered, which sounds like it's a dig at Trump, a sly dig at Trump without saying his name. But then you bring up young kids and how they're the problem, which literally makes absolutely no sense in the context of what's going on right now. And it just strikes me that I'm back to being concerned about something, y'all. I'm back to being concerned that Chief Justice John Roberts knows the Trump regime is going to blow off anything they order. He knows that they're going to blow them off. So if you're in that position, what would a no principle having hack do? He would give Trump nuanced decisions where they largely approve of the stuff he's doing with caveats. So this way, when Trump goes ahead and does what he wants to do anyway, the court can turn around in the future and say, oh, we didn't lose our power. We didn't lose our authority. Our word is still good because we weren't being blown off by the Trump administration. What the Trump administration was doing was legal to some extent. I'm back to worrying about that. For a second there, when we got the 9-0 Supreme Court ruling, I actually wasn't. I felt like, oh, they actually are going to stand up. But now I'm back to worrying about that because if he cares about the institution of the court more than he cares about the specifics of what Trump is doing, he'll try to find a way to thread the needle where the court still has its power post-Trump. And one of the ways of doing that is to largely approve of what Trump is doing with caveats and with hedges, right? But if he comes out again and Trump violates another 9-0 Supreme Court ruling and violates another one, then the mask is off and people realize the court really doesn't have power. Their power is based on the norms of the other branches of government abiding by the rulings of the court. Once they stop doing that, there is no enforcement mechanism, right? And so I'm back to being concerned about that. By the way, at the same time, I'm not concerned at the lower level of the courts. I'm actually not concerned about it because virtually every decision so far has said the same thing on all these different cases. You had a Trump-appointed judge in Texas say, oh, your Alien Enemies Act deportations, totally illegal. Totally illegal. You got to stop doing that immediately. And his reasoning was, A, this law's only been invoked during actual wartime in the past. We're not at war with Venezuela. What are you talking about? We're not even at war with Tren de Aragua. That's not a thing. Also, these people you're deporting are not even in Tren de Aragua. So a Trump judge ripped apart the legal rationale for these mass kidnappings and human traffickings that they call deportations. Multiple Trump judges have done that. So at the lower court level, they're all correct. They're all saying the right things. They're all trying to protect due process and rule of law. But these comments from John Roberts lead me to believe he knows Trump's a threat, but he's couching it, he's sugarcoating it, he's saying, oh, we have other threats too, like the kids. And it makes me think, is he going to stand up and say the right thing when it comes down to it with all these different cases, whether it be Doge cases, violating the Impoundment Control Act, violating Congress having the power of the purse, the Alien Enemies Act deportations? Like, what's he going to do? What's he going to do? What's he going to say? I don't know. But it seems like he's waking up to the threat, but he's trying to deal with it in a political way. And that's not going to work. What these people need to understand is if you give the fascists an inch, they will take a mile. Every fucking time. We just saw it with the law firms. We just saw it with the universities. First, they're like, okay, yeah, I'll work with you. You want me to get rid of the DEI program we have here? Yeah, all right, we're open to that. And then Trump comes in and goes, oh, you did that? Great. Well, how about now you do MAGA affirmative action. You let us take over in some sort of federal conservatorship the entire curriculum at Harvard. And so you can't give them anything because then they go way, way, way further. And so he's misreading the situation. He absolutely is. It's got to be, you got to be very clear. You got to be on the record. It's got to be rock solid. And then you also have to get clever and find ways to actually enforce your rulings, right? Like the example I've been giving is if you crack down on them civilly and say that they're violating court orders, which some of these courts can do that, it's not something that Trump could pardon. So the courts could like freeze the assets and freeze the bank accounts and fine all of these DHS officials and ICE officials that are acting as Trump's Gestapo, violating the law and deporting innocent people and locking up Americans and things of that nature. You could freeze their bank accounts. And Trump can't do anything in that scenario. Now, if you were to criminally hold them in contempt and try to arrest them, Trump could just pardon them. So you got to get clever. You got to get crafty to actually enforce the law. But I don't know. It seems like he's still trying to negotiate with evil right now. And that's not going to work, bro. That's not going to work. Wake up. Wake up to what's happening. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.